Hi, welcome to Week in Review, where we look at some of the news in the headlines. I'm Phil O'Connor, the Live Enterprise Director, joined this week by Carla Hinton, our Religion Editor, Ryan Sharp, the Sports Editor, and my old friend Don McCoy, the Business Editor. Carla, a lot of news this week out of the Catholic Church, both nationally and locally, in response to the situation in Pennsylvania, where the Attorney General there and a grand jury looked into abuse among priests in the Philadelphia Diocese and the other dioceses in the state, and found, again, a huge problem with priests abusing children. And that has prompted movement here in Oklahoma. What's going on in the Catholic Diocese, the two Catholic dioceses in Oklahoma?
Okay. Well, I guess this is happening around the country. People are reading about this Pennsylvania report and they're thinking, hey, I wonder what happened to, if they had someone, a priest in their life who maybe there were some questionable things happening. And we got a letter here in Oklahoma City from a man who lives in another state who said he was sexually molested when he was a teenager by a priest here. And so we reached out to the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, and they told us that the man had been defrocked many years ago. I think he was defrocked officially in 2011 and maybe removed from the priesthood in 2002. Well, it turns out, however, that the Archdiocese did not know that he was volunteering at a local Catholic church that is located close to two Catholic schools. So there was a rush to alert the parish priest there that this man should not be there, certainly in not the capacity of a volunteer. And so that started a lot of angst here in Oklahoma City.
And that speaks a little bit to what a lot of this issue is about, is that the faithful in the Catholic Church have sort of never been given a full accounting of all the priests that the dioceses around the country have taken action against or have learned about allegations against, where they may have taken action within the church but told no one else about it, including law enforcement. So you have parishes and folks who may not even know about a priest who has allegations against him that have been that are credible, and that has allowed priests, which we dealt with, we thought more than a decade ago, the ability to move from parish to parish to parish. And that was supposedly stopped, and yet we still find, even today, the problem continues, and the same thing is going on. And so another thing that the diocese has now done, apparently, is that they've come forward and said that they are going to provide some sort of an accounting, correct?
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, one of the things that's just leaps out at you with this defrocked priest here in Oklahoma City is that he was removed from the priesthood in 2002 by the local archbishop, but no law authorities were called. So, in other words, there was a credible accusation of some sort that had them make the extremely astonishing act of putting him out of the priesthood, and they don't do that, that often. But they didn't call the police, so that's why he was able to do the things that he was doing, which was volunteering at a local church. But they didn't want him as a volunteer at that point. So now they say they're going to look back 50 years at priests and others in the archdiocese who had credible accusations made against them, and they're going to put out a report. We should get the report out in maybe a week or two, where they're going to name these priests and name what happened to them, tell a little bit about them, because they want the Catholic community and the community at large to know that they're trying to be more upfront. And they say that they don't think this is going to happen again because now they know, or the Archbishop Coakley here wants to make sure that people know that he knows that they need to call the police.
Again, my only point would be that this was what they told us a decade ago. This is what they said they were doing, that they were setting up councils within the churches that would review all the allegations, that they would be made public, that there was going to be a reckoning, and yet here we are, we find ourselves again in the same situation. I'm curious, one of the things, again, it is the Catholic Church essentially telling its followers that it will investigate itself and provide the information to the public, and that's just different, I think, than the model that we saw in Pennsylvania, which was actually outside law enforcement came in and used a grand jury to get 1 million pages worth of information that they then were able to build the case, and a very damning case in terms of what bishops, cardinals, all the way up the line did in terms of covering up for problem priests. And then on a separate issue, we also have another issue going on with the Catholic Church locally in terms of the pushback against the Pope.
Yes.
From including our local bishop on the issue of, well, tell us about what's going on there. This is sort of internal church politics, but it's interesting.
It's kind of, yeah, it's now out in the headlines. Well, apparently there is a Theodore McCarrick, one of the cardinals, well, he's an ex-cardinal now, Theodore McCarrick, an American cardinal who's risen up the ranks, very prestigious things he was doing, and they found out that he was regularly sleeping with seminarians, and maybe there have been some other things. And now there is an allegation that was put out by an ex-Vatican diplomat who says that the Pope Francis knew about these things and has covered it up for many years. And now that there are factions in the church that are kind of turning upon themselves.
And even calling
people
for
are taking,
the removal of the Pope,
the removal
which is
of Pope
extremely
Francis.
extraordinary.
Yes, and Pope Francis has said that he's not going to say a word about it. And of course his supporters are wanting him to say something about it. I mean, it's sad that there's an internal mess, and then they have this other thing going on too.
And then one of the people who've taken a big stand in that is
right here, the Archbishop of Oklahoma City and the Bishop of Tulsa. Both of them have taken a stand and said they do think that the church needs to investigate these instances or investigate these allegations that the Pope knew and other people knew.
A lot of controversy rolling around the Catholic Church. We'll keep an eye on that. Thanks for all that reporting. Let's turn to something a little bit lighter. Football season kicked off. OSU last night. Fairly decent win, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a FCS opponent in Missouri State, but you get a 58-17 win out of it, and you find a little bit out about your team. It's nice to finally have games and game film to look at. Some of it's what we knew. We knew that Oklahoma State was loaded at running back. Justice Hill has a phenomenal first quarter. It's really all he played. Touched the ball 10 times, ends up with over 100 yards, touchdown. But they've got three other guys at running back that could probably be starting at a lot of schools in the country, and J.D. King, Chuba Hubbard, and L.D. Brown, all of which offer something a little bit different. But I think you're going to see a lot of those four guys all year long. They have the ability to kind of shuffle those guys in and out. All of them are good catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, we saw last night that several of them have breakaway speed, just incredibly quick. So that we kind of knew. What we didn't know was Taylor Cornelius and the receivers. Cornelius struggled early.
It was fun. At halftime on Twitter, you know, people are like, pull this guy, pull this guy.
You had a lot of people.
And I wasn't watching the whole game. I wake up this morning, he threw 5 touchdowns, right?
He threw 5 touchdowns. He threw 24-34, 5 touchdowns. It was the misses that had everybody fired up because they were bad misses. I think his first pass he threw into the ground about 10 yards short of a receiver on an out route, so it's not that far of a route. Routinely missed on long throws. And I think what some of that is people being spoiled by Mason Rudolph, who was phenomenal at the deep ball. You had a guy in James Washington who was phenomenal at getting deep balls. It's going to be different. It's going to take a little bit of adjusting. But I honestly think, I was telling Don a little bit ago, that it sure looks like Oklahoma State's rushing game, their ground game, is going to be what they lean on pretty heavy, at least for the first part of this year, until these other guys get comfortable.
And not necessarily, that's not been their MO.
It hasn't. I mean, they've had really good running backs for the past 15, 20 years. But I think with these four guys that they've got that they can rotate in and out, the questions at quarterback, the questions at receiver, I say questions, unknowns. I think you're going to see them relying on the ground game quite a bit, especially when you get here in a couple weeks when they play Boise State. Next week, they've got South Alabama. You can kind of get away with some things against the South Alabama. Boise State's ranked in the top 25. They're really good. They're going to be a test for OSU in Stillwater. So through that, until they can kind of figure out what they have at quarterback and what they have at receiver, you're going to see a lot of these guys running the ball.
Okay, and then OU starts their season mañana.
Indeed. We'll find out finally what the Kyler Murray offense looks like. OU's kind of in the same boat. They have some knowns at running back. Rodney Anderson's popped up on a lot of Heisman lists. We saw a little bit of Kyler Murray last year at times, but not to the point where we're going to have a really good feeling of what he's going to be able to do. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Again, they have a tougher test than what Oklahoma State have. Florida Atlantic's going to be a good team. They're going to win a bunch of games this year. They've got some athletes, guys that were at highly regarded D1 schools. Some of them we talked about last week. Some of them gotten into trouble and have either gotten removed from a team or transferred and landed at Florida Atlantic. Lane Kiffin, for everything that anybody wants to say about him, he knows offense. He can call a football game. So they're going to be a little bit of a challenge for OU. Most of OU's questions are on the defensive side of the ball, as they have been in the last couple of years. But it'll be interesting to see kind of the changes they've made, the new guys that they've got in. They've got a lot of young guys that are going to play a lot. So it'll be fun to see kind of what happens on Saturday.
South Dakota, if you're wondering.
Oh, I wasn't.
Okay. That's who the Cats play. But and then, Don, any comment on Kyle Singler and his haircut leaving town?
You know, Kyle's got good hair.
Got good hair.
He didn't have much of a jump shot, turned out.
So
He's
we
got
learned.
some money. He's
Yeah.
going to walk
He's
away with
got
some money.
So we learned. And we got some more cap space now, right?
They do. Well, not space. Lower tax. They don't have any cap space. They just have to pay less than what they were going to have to.
Apparently they will not be able to sign you
No.
this week.
Oh, rats, okay.
Don, marijuana continues to be a business story, making money for people.
Yeah, you know, we now have the medical marijuana, and we've got a state organization that is actually taking licenses, and over 1,000 businesses have applied to be active. We had a story this week, Adam Wilmoth wrote it, about a company based in Colorado that wants to be the Home Depot of marijuana for Oklahoma City. They don't sell anything that requires licensing, but they take care of people who want to grow and cultivate marijuana, which will be legal under certain circumstances. And so you go there and you get all your supplies and your fertilizer and your grow lights, and they'll give you advice on how to you know, bring in a bumper pot crop. And this company, which is publicly traded, they have stores in 7 other states or 6 other states. This is their first store in Oklahoma, of course. But their stock, the day they announced that they were going to build a store in Oklahoma City, was up almost 20%. So, you know, people seem to think, at least on Wall Street, that Oklahoma is fertile ground for this kind of business.
And you know, this wide open nature of the system that we're developing in Oklahoma, I think there is concern among small business people who thought there might be an opportunity here. If you get all these major corporations coming in and setting up shop, you know, is there going to be an opportunity for the small operator to, you know, run a medical marijuana business if you've got these large, you know, out-of-state interests who, I mean, you have the businesses so developed in other states now, and companies are, you know, savvy in the ways of the industry now that I just wonder how much opportunity there'll be for locally grown companies. That's kind of a bad way to say it. But.
Yeah, but yeah, it's true, because Oklahoma, you know, we were pretty far down the line to approve this. It's going on, has been going on in other states where there's recreational use and there's medical use. You know, and so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we've seen that with the CBD shops. There's been some chains that have moved in and are planning or have already established shops, which some people think might be placeholders for, you know, dispensaries. But we'll see. You know, and it's a moving target for us. That's one of the reasons we did this story, is because, you know, hey, look, people are interested in Oklahoma. They think this is going to be a lucrative undertaking in the state. From talking to the guys that runs this company, there's no reason not to. He's already talking about a second store, and they're investing $1 million in this store. So,
wow. And then we have a story this weekend from Ben Felder in the paper that will look at, you know, what one of the kind of common refrains we keep hearing in the marijuana debate is basically, you know, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? How can this possibly be done? And Ben kind of points out in the story that, you know, 30 other states have been down this road already. It's not like we're reinventing the light bulb every opportunity. We're doing it at a much greater pace than a lot of states are, but a lot of the concerns, a lot of the arguments, a lot of the, you know, the hurdles that have been kind of thrown out there, other states have addressed them, you know, and so kind of looks at what we do in terms of looking at other states as, you know, providing a model for us to maybe follow or whatever. Anyway, a lot of great stories. Thanks for all your help this week, guys. Want to thank you, the viewers and the readers who pick us up and watch us online. You're key to what we do. If there's anything you think we can do better, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know. In your driveway, on your computer, tablet, phone, wherever you want to pick us up, we're there. We'll see you next week.